Hi there. In case you've never met me, I'm Nancy Epezu, and I'm the lead consultant at Pezu Smith Consulting, a firm that is totally dedicated to helping schools and organizations to build their administration and management. So we train, we coach, and we also mentor school owners, school administrators, and school leaders. And we also prepare those who are just having a transition from the classroom into administration because of the skills that are usually different from what they've used in the classroom. I'm also the author of three amazing books, one of which is The Effective Boarding House Administration. This guides you in how to operate your boarding house, and also The School Administrator's Companion. The other book is totally exhausted in Abuja, but I have some copies in Lagos, Calabar, and Port Harcourt, and you might want to place your order. I'll be asking for more. I'll be asking for more to be sent to me. I'm actually on a visit from Lagos to Abuja. Incidentally, I've run out of the copies I came with because of the high demand. Yeah. Okay, so and then I'm also the founder of the Connected School Administrators Academy. And we are currently starting the cohort 3 on the 1st of August 2022. If cohort 1 started in January, and we got amazing feedback from the participants. The cohort 2 will be ending in 2 weeks, and cohort 3 starts on the 1st of August, which is the last cohort for this year. And I really urge you to join, because that is where I teach in depth about school administration and management. You get to ask me questions, and then we have a dedicated WhatsApp group where you can answer questions. You get to also have a one-on-one session with me once every month and have access to me for the period of the 3 months to ask questions, to evaluate your practice, and just get better at what you do. So that's a bit about me. All right, so you can read the rest of my profile on my website, www.nancyekpezu.com. So today I'll be talking to us about a topic. I've titled it, How to Get Your Employees to Cooperate with You. The school year is ending. And for some, they've already ended. The schools in Nigeria that run the American curriculum, or whatever part of the world you are, I know that some schools and some countries have already ended the 2021-2022 academic session, and we'll be starting a new session soon. So, and of course, with a new session comes new administrators, new managers, new people promoted to new positions that they had never held before or had the experience to handle. And so I'll just be sharing a few tips that have helped me over the years and areas where I made mistakes that you could learn from. So I decided to title this, How to Get Your Employees to Cooperate with You, How to Earn Your Subordinates cooperation. It could serve for school owners, for managers, for administrators, or even for others who just run a little team. Whether you've been asked to even head an event planning committee in your school or whatever, the truth is you need people to cooperate with you. No matter how brainy or intelligent or brilliant you are, you cannot do the work alone. School administration is enormous. It's overwhelming sometimes. And even with people cooperating with you, there's so much to do. How much talk more when you do not have the cooperation of your team? So I'm sharing some tips that are going to really help you. It's just an impromptu video. I didn't plan this. I was about shutting down from the office, and I said, well, why don't I just, record a video that could help people who will be starting out in administration or management or playing a new role in the new session, or as you're about closing, things that you could start practicing. So remember, the title is How to Get Your Employees or Your Subordinates to Cooperate with You. Number 1, care about their personal lives. I'm not saying you should get people to start snooping on them and telling you every move that they make. No, that would be gossiping and prying into their private lives. I'm talking about caring for them. I'm not saying getting to know their private lives in the totality of it. I'm talking about getting to at least care for them about their private lives. Supposing you have someone on your team who is pregnant and she's giving in her best, and suddenly the pregnancy becomes a little difficult, you should show some empathy, you know? And when they tell you, oh, I feel like throwing up, I've thrown up today like twice, may I go home? You know, you need to be understanding. So long they've not been lazy over time, and you've seen that they've been really hardworking, but this is just a difficult period for them. You might have women on your team who are menopausal, and sometimes they just come up, you know, the hormonal surges and all of those changes that occur sometimes make some women behave a little off. You just need to understand them and where they are. So there's a need for you to study the people on your team and get to know them about their private lives, you know, not in a way to gossip or make jest of them, but in a way to care. It might be one of them just had a baby. It might be one of them just lost a relative, lost their spouse, lost their father, lost a child, whatever. You know, be there to care. Care enough to call them. Oh, I'm sorry, Cecilia, I heard this happens to you. Do you want to talk about it? If they're not ready to open up the whole details to you, depending on the level of trust they've developed with you, but at least show some concern. Ask them how they're faring. Ask them how things are going. When is the burial coming up? Would you like one or two staff members to attend? You know, things like that. It goes a long way. I'm currently in Abuja, and you know, one of the staff had a child who was ill after a few days after I came in to stand in for the executive director of a school. And then I walked up to her and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I learned your child is ill, and that's why you had to take permission to be to close earlier yesterday." And she said, "Yes, you know." She was so, I could see how she warmed up to me after 2 days later, after I asked her how the child was doing, and you know, provide a few recommendations, one or two things they could do. I'm not a doctor, but you know, have you tried this? Have you taken him or her to this hospital or this for a checkup? And now when she sees me, she just smiles, because that shows some care. That is not just enough to get you to work and work, but that when you have challenges, the leader, the administrator, or the manager is also there to at least give a listening ear or to care and show some empathy, show some love, you know, to them. So it might be about them losing someone. It might be even about them celebrating when they have events, it's their birthdays, something good is coming up or something is not moving fine. Show some empathy and show the celebration too when it's something good to celebrate about. Okay, what's the second thing I wrote? Okay, stop offloading blames to them. Now, when you take on a job as a leader or as an administrator, believe me, you take responsibility, the responsibility that comes with that position. So when things go wrong, stop offloading the blame to your subordinates. Take responsibility for it. You were employed to solve problems. And if there's a problem that hasn't been solved, instead of constantly pointing your fingers at the subordinates and telling them how poorly they are doing, see where the gaps are and begin to see how to develop them to be able to achieve the, you know, the expected results for that position. So stop blaming them. Stop offloading the blame to them. Take responsibility and learn to take the blame as the leader, as the administrator, as the manager when things do not go right. There's a third point I wrote here: become self-aware. You know, some administrators like to think they are the alpha and omega of the organization, and that's not true. You need to come to a point where you understand your strengths, you understand your weaknesses, and you know the areas where you need to delegate, and also the areas you need to stay away from and let someone else handle entirely. For example, I'm not a very big person with figures, even though I had to learn to cope on the job so that I don't get defrauded or so that things don't go wrong. But, you know, I would always like the accountant to handle some things, anything finance, while I get someone else, maybe who studied accounting, to also go through what he's done before I now check. You know, if I need to append my signature to things, I like at least one or two people to check them first, you know. And then I also know that I have a strength in writing. And so communication that would go out of the organization or internally, I like to go through them because that's my area of strength. But I'm not a very big person with, rallying around people and getting everybody. I'm very loyal to the relationships around me, but I'm not all over the place. And so when I lead a large organization, I would usually want a very close person to me to have very strong people skills so that I can say, oh, have you checked on this person? I learned she was in the hospital or these, because I can get busy with the paperwork, I can get busy with the processes, the resources, how things should be operations, how they move. And the people part is very important. It's not like I don't care about these people. But my temperament is such that I have to make the effort to actually be there for everybody. But since it's not always that easy, I really like someone on my team to have that strength to be able to, make up for it in the organization. So sometimes I apologize ahead of time that, I'm a melancholic. I've made all the effort to be out of my shell. I love you all. I care about you. But you might not see me in your houses, like all over the place every day. I try as much as I can, and sometimes I even have to jot it in my journal, like, or in my planner, like, oh, check up on Debbie, check up on this person, give them a call to know how they're doing. That's how to give them, pushing a word of encouragement, because I'm very result oriented usually. And sometimes it might cut across like I'm a bit, even though I'm very calm, I would not shout or anything, but I know how to stretch people, to work when they work under my supervision. So become self-aware, know what your strengths are, know what your weaknesses are, make efforts to work on the weaknesses, but leverage on your strength very much. Okay, so that you don't make a mess of your administration trying to do the things you're not very good at when there are people on your team who can actually take that burden off you while you work behind the scene to develop those areas. And then number four, develop your emotional intelligence. Very important. How do you cut across to them? Are you brash? Are you on? Do you care about their feelings, or do you just blot anything out and not care about how the people on your team feel? Okay, so that's another area you need to work on, your emotional intelligence, gauging the feelings of the people on your team when you want to take a decision, when you need things done, how they perceive you, and working in a way that they can actually accept you as their leader. Because the truth is, you need to earn the trust of the people to be able to lead them. I learned that, over the years after I had led one, two, schools, and I had to know that you have to even get permission from people to be able to lead them. The fact that you have a position doesn't mean that you're automatically their leader. You have to make them buy into you. You have to make them understand you. And emotional intelligence will help you a lot to be able to navigate things with the people without them pushing back too much at you. Okay, so those are tips you need to remember as you start on your new job. Okay, so develop your communication skills. Very important. Some people think that being talkative is actually communicating. Sometimes you may just be blabbing on and talking over everybody's head. So learn the communication styles that work for your organization. Study the people you're with. What works for them? What's the best way to communicate with them? Am I going to use a WhatsApp platform? Am I going to use emails? How often do they check emails? As I introduce them to email etiquette and all of that and the policies around it, how do I get them to respond to me? How do I pass on the messages that I need and be understood? Because it's not enough for you to say what you want to say. It's more important that they understand exactly what it is that you're telling them and act accordingly. Okay, so develop your communication skills are very important. Learn when to use a STEM style of communicating and when to balance it with calmness and never be rude when you communicate. Be very careful with your words, both to the parents, the children, and also to the staff that you lead. Very, very important. Okay. And don't be a perfectionist or try to, I'm too hard to please. Incidentally, I fell into this trap, like, over the years, because I love things to be done properly. If you read any of my books, you will know how much effort goes into producing just a copy of my book. It's you can almost not pick a fault with it, and I'm proud to say that that's the perfectionist part of me. But it also has its shortfall. When you're a perfectionist, you also put that standard out there to everybody, and it becomes difficult sometimes to meet. And they might think that you're a bit too snooty, and they might start looking at you like you pick on them too much on little things. And not everybody pays attention to detail, so you need to understand that those on your team have their strengths, and there are also areas that they have strengths in that you do not have it. So along the way, when I started getting feedback from the people that I lead over the years, and I began to see that there was a need to cool down and then appreciate them for the effort that they make while we're on the way to that big, perfection that is always in the mind of a melancholic when the person is a leader. And that's a word to those of us who are melancholic leaders. You need to also try to understand the people that you work with and know when to celebrate them. Every milestone, every little thing they do, tell them, well, that's good. You're coming up, and all that, to encourage them. Because the truth is, when your standard is so high up there, after a while, people just give up, or they say, oh, our standards are too high. We can't meet them, or they start running away from you. I'm talking from experience. So one of the things I've learned now is to woo the people and celebrate. Start by celebrating their little efforts, the little things that they do, and tell them, well, that's really nice. That was so great. Wow, you did this. Make a big deal of the little things that they do so that it encourages them to do more. Okay? Appreciate them. I've actually already mentioned that even in saying not to be a perfectionist. When you take on any new role, don't start condemning all the things they've done over the years. Start by telling them how well they've done, the areas they've done well, before you now start chipping in the areas they need to improve on, okay? So remember the sandwich approach. Start with the positive, chip in the negatives, and then start again with ending with something positive, maybe where you're heading or whatever. But never start by just breaking people, telling them where they're not doing well. Appreciate them. Maybe it's their birthday, maybe a little cake, a little celebrating them on your WhatsApp platform if you have any for your organization. Putting them out there in the assembly, if it's a school you're leading, if you're an administrator, maybe putting them in the newsletter, and all. People feel appreciated, okay? Even if it's just a corner where you have the pictures of the people that are celebrating their birthdays for the month, that goes a long way to put a smile on someone's face, doesn't it? Okay? All right, so that's how we roll. Okay, stop avoiding conflict. When you avoid conflicts as a leader, an administrator, or a manager, it gives a signal that you're not confident, and so they start to ride on you. When you notice things that are not right or done well, there are times to actually be confrontational, to call people and say, hey, I'm calling you up on this. Try to do it privately, though, but don't overlook every fault in a bid to be liked. While we're trying to get their cooperation, there is also a balance of being firm in the things you need to be firm in, because you're not there to make friends and eat ice cream with them. You know what they say about being liked as a leader? If everybody on the team just loves you and they're all gushy, or sometimes you might want to check your practice. It could be that you're not being firm enough. So there's a balance to it. I'm not talking about you becoming a doormat so that the staff will like you. No, you have goals to achieve and you are accountable for them. And you're also going to be accountable for their performance. So you need to know when to call them out and when to head on resolve conflicts and when to address conflicts, okay, and issues that happen in the organization. So don't have your neck in the sand like the ostrich. You have to stick it out and tell them when they to clear their boundaries and let them know where they're overstepping their boundaries, okay? All right, so invest in their development. Oh, I wish I had my phone here. Where is it? I've been getting lots of messages from those that are working on my last job, and I'm someone who is reputable for pushing people out of their comfort zones to achieve more. And when I head an organization, I do not like to leave people the same way. The process might not always be easy, and they might not even like you at that point. But I have noticed that when I move on from any organization, one of the things I'm always highly celebrated for is that I push people, I nudge them, keep nudging, 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 nudging until they get out of their comfort zone and they're doing things they never thought they could do. And so have a plan for their personal and professional development and help them develop it. Okay? Push them when you notice things about them that need to change, maybe to attend some courses, maybe to read some books. I remember buying a book for a subordinate once a few years ago, and she looked at me with disdain, more like, was that all you saw to buy for me, a book? But incidentally, these same people, this same set of people, I've been getting so many calls and messages, and they tell me, oh, Miss Nancy, I thank God that you are one of those people who crossed our path. Let me see if I can check out a few of the messages. It would have been so nice. Let me see to see the messages that I've been getting, to read one or two out, but they've been really heartwarming, and some have almost got me teary, because these were people that gave me a really tough time trying to push them out of their comfort zone. The job was actually like a change management, trying to get people who were in a certain system, getting them to learn 21st century skills and get them out of their comfort zone. At some point, it was like, hey, for all this force and resistance just to do the right thing. But it's so funny how I've come to be celebrated by these same people. And that's the joy of leading people right and not leading them the right way. Okay, so when have a plan, invest in their development, their personal development, in their professional development, and constantly give them materials to study, introduce them to courses, send them on some. I remember sponsoring one or two of them with my money, and they didn't know I paid for it. And they came back and said, oh, they didn't serve us this, or they didn't give that. And I just smiled. I think it was much later that one of them got to know that it was actually my personal money I used in investing in her. And she became very emotional after that. So invest in their development, no matter what it costs, so long the organization can afford it and it's going to be useful for them. Or if they can afford it, and the organization is not ready to pay, push them, let them be able to invest in their development. Very, very important, okay? Be reliable and honest and demonstrate integrity. Well, nobody's perfect, but one of the things that my subordinates have always said to me is, Ms. Nancy, you're such a reliable person, and you demonstrate integrity to a level that we never thought we could get in our clients. You're transparent and you're real, okay? So I like that feedback, and I usually appreciate it when it comes years after I've left an organization, because it means that you made an impact in that area. Remember that your character is very important when you're leading people, and when you're an administrator, a head of school, a principal, whatever position it is that you occupy. Never be involved with embezzling money. You lose respect, okay? If you say yes, let your yes be yes. And when you say no, please let your no be no. And when they know that, everybody will be able to take their positions and also learn from you. The truth is, when you become a leader, you're invariably a role model. And they're looking at you. If you compromise, it's going to cascade to the others, okay? And if they see that, let me tell you what happened. When I took on one of my job positions as a school administrator, I understood people were coming late to work. I didn't even say a word to them about it. They just noticed that I was always in the office 30 minutes before when I should be. And before I knew it, what went wrong? She's a no-nonsense madam. She doesn't take rubbish. She comes to work early, she leaves, she's the last to leave. When I started leading by example, they just began to line up, and that became a non-issue in the organization. People just began to line up. So they look up to you, and if they see that you're the one with resumption time, sorry, I had something, I have a tooth issue there. So if resumption time is 7:30 a.m., and you get there to work at 8 a.m. and you want to now bully or talk to those who came in late, then you will not get the respect or cooperation in that area. They are going to demonstrate to you, mimic to you back exactly what it is you're doing. If you're showing integrity, they are going to look at you. First, they might not believe it, but after a while, they'll be like, oh, she's been very consistent with this. You see that others will begin to line up. It just happens. That's how it is. When you lead a team and you show transparency and you're honest, the rest of you, because they know they read these things and they'll begin to line up. Okay? And then respect them. I do not like to see administrators who yell at people and shout and put them down and call them names. No matter how much pressure you have on your job, find a coping mechanism, but never disrespect the people you work with. Do not call them names, do not shout at them, do not bully them, or else you're going to get a very negative feedback and response from them. So I urge you, please respect the people. Respect is reciprocal. If you're going to respect the people you work with, they are going to respect you. And if you disrespect them, they're going to play lip service to you while they pull you down, or they're going to start disrespecting you to your face, depending on the level that you've gone with them, okay? And then I urge you, lastly, do not gossip about your staff. So, instead of calling people, what did they say about me? By the way, you should not have cliques of people who come to tell you what people are saying about you. There's nothing as destructive to a managerial position as people gossiping to you about your subordinates, okay? And before you know it, you start viewing them in a certain way, and your response to them is going to be very, very poor. So if they tell you things, tell them to always keep it professional. Maybe someone made a comment about the organization and is trying to rubbish a project. That is something you should take up, okay, because that's professional. But if someone says, oh, your head is big, your legs are too fat, I mean, that's really, I don't think that has any impact on my performance on the job, okay? And what you should focus basically is not to get everybody to be mushy and like you. Remember, getting people's cooperation is not necessarily getting them to be hugging you every day. The aim is to really get them to work. But as much as they like you, that would be so good to get the job done. It's easier to work with a boss that is liked than the one that is utterly disliked or hated. But you also need to know where to draw the line. Don't be mean and wicked. At the same time, don't be a footmat for them to just run over, okay? So don't gossip about them and don't gossip to them. There are ways to clarify things in administration without having people to be gossiping and knocking everybody's heads together and forming a toxic organization. And then another thing, be fair to all. One of the things that was said at my Sandford of my last job was that Miss Nancy has no favorites. She could take a cup of coffee with you now, and the next thing she'll address issues with you and tell you, hey, this is what you did right, this is what you need to work on. And during evaluation, be fair to everybody. Just be fair. Don't pick favorites because they come gossiping to you. If not, you're going to mess up the entire organization. So treat everybody equally and treat them based on their input, based on their contribution to the success and growth of the organization, not how much they gossip to you. So I hope these points have helped. I don't know how many are there, 12, 13. Okay, about that. They just came to my mind randomly as I was about closing, and I said, let me just jot them down for those who are starting administration or management positions in the 2020 whatever, or even ending the year, but still need these tips. Watch them over and over, practice them, and you'll see that they work. And then for administration, please develop all those skills that you need. Be good at your job, okay? Make sure you're good at your job so you get their cooperation. Then they know that you work hard, you're diligent, you do your job. Before you know it, people they'll just say, she's a workaholic, I better be working. When my madam is the one doing all this, won't I also work? It will rub off on them. But if you're lazy and you expect them to work and stretch them, that might not work. I hope these few points are useful. Remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel for videos on school and workplace administration and management. And also get copies of my 3 books, Dear Educator, The School Administrator's Companion, and Effective Boarding House administration, effective boarding house administration. I've run out of the copies of The Educator, like I said earlier. I'll be getting a supply of it to me here in Abuja for those of you who need copies. So please, if you also need me to train your team on performance management or do an audit for your organization or come in to train on management and admin related topics, I'll be really glad to do so. Remember to check my website, www.nancyekpezu.com, and subscribe to my blog. I share free content on my blog. I share free content in my WhatsApp on my WhatsApp group. I'll put the link in the video in the comments, and I also share free content on my YouTube channel and also my website blog. So remember, subscribe to my YouTube channel, website blog, join my group Educational Administration Network on Facebook, check out my public profile, Nancy Ekpezu on Facebook, join my WhatsApp group with my number, it's in the comment, and leave also some tips that have helped you on your position or the ones that you have researched that you intend to practice as a school administrator or manager. Remember, when I say school administrator, is all encompassing for all the managerial roles. I use that word loosely to mean head of school, head teacher, school administrator, admin officer, anybody at all that is actually in a management or administrative position. So thank you and see you in my next video. Ciao, ciao.